This video is section 6, unit 3. Don't do that. See, now they don't know what I'm talking about because I'm looking at somebody else and they're just like, what is he doing? He's wasting my time. I gotta fast forward this. Okay, radical equations. So, very short day today because it's only 3 numbers for notes. Which, if that tells you anything from the past, the shorter the notes, probably the more practice you will need on the homework. That's why I don't do a whole lot, right? So I would definitely practice, considering you have a quiz coming up. Okay, so solving radical equations, I just have to solve the equation and check for extraneous solutions. I'll explain what that is when we get to it, because we will have one. Okay, so you'll have 3 different types of questions that you might see on the homework. The first one looks like this. Notice my index. Oh man, hold on. My index for both of these is 4. The exact same thing. So if that's true, if my index is always the same, I mean pretty much you're just getting rid of the roots. But technically what I'm doing is I'm going to take each side to that power. So if it's the 4th root, it'd be the 4th power, square root, 2nd power, cube root, 3rd, and so on. But really what I'm doing is I'm just taking away the square roots. Because they're the same, I'm just going to rewrite this. Okay. So yeah, I took it to the power. You don't need to write that. You can just rewrite it without the square roots and then solve just like normal. Way back in Algebra 1. Good old days, right? When stuff was easy. Okay, so I'm just going to solve for D here. So I always move the smallest variable, which you can move either one. It really doesn't matter. You will get the same answer, I promise. So 2D plus 1D is 3D, which are very cool movies if they work for you. Alright, now I gotta move the 3 over here. Some of y'all can already see the answer. And then of course last step is divide. So on this one, my answer would be 10 equals D. Okay. Now, I don't have to worry about extraneous solutions because I had 2 roots. No letter or variable was outside the radical, so that's not a concern. So for these, I can just solve like normal and move on to the next one. If it'll let me. There we go. Alright, number 2. So notice this one, you'll see these also. I have some parentheses here. So I have these, right? And then I have my exponents, my 1/2, or you might see 1/3, 1/4. Remember, that's just square root, cube root, and 4th root. Okay, so on these questions, you want to find the parentheses and get rid of everything else around it. So like if I'm adding or subtracting anything back here or in front, I want to add or move that first. But I don't have anything adding or subtracting. I am actually multiplying. And some of y'all, I get questions all the time, how do you know if you're multiplying or adding? Because some people would see this minus 9 and add 9, and that would be incorrect. So if I look right in between this 9 and the parentheses, if you do not see a plus or a minus in between, then it's multiplying. Okay. Whoa. So because I'm multiplying this 9, the opposite, of course, is divide. So I'm going to divide by -9. And you'll see on the homework, you'll see plus and minus in between, and so you'll know what I'm talking about. So I just divide that. So you get 4 equals x minus 12 to the 1/2. Okay, now once you get the parentheses by itself with my fraction, notice my fraction is 1/2, so the opposite of 1/2 would be 2/1, or just squared, right? So whatever my fraction is on one side, all you do is do the opposite on the other. So if I have 1/2, it'd be squared. If I had 1/3, it'd be cubed. Of course, 1/4 is to the 4th power. And that's how I get rid of the parentheses. So when I do this, I have 4 squared on the left you get 16. Then I can drop the parentheses, I can drop the 1/2, because when I square it on the other side, it's gone on the 1. So I squared on the left, it's gone on the right. So now I just have x minus 12. And now from here, again, very easy to solve. I just add 12, and I can find x. So on this one, you get 28 equals x. And that's my answer. And again, I don't have a letter, like no x or anything outside the parentheses or outside the square root, so I don't have to worry about extraneous solutions. But look at number 3. Of course, we have a's outside the square root, so here we will have to check for extraneous solutions. I put them in on purpose just to show you in the notes. Okay, so notice I have my radical, my square root. So I'm going to outline that. That's what I want to be by itself. So, like I said before, notice I have this plus. See, that plus is in between the radical and the a, the 7a. That tells me that it's adding. So then I would subtract to move it. So if it wasn't there, I'd be multiplying and I would divide and so on. Okay, so let's move that over. So 8 minus 7 is just 1a. And then we have square root. Okay, so just like before, whatever your index is, so my index here, of course, because I don't have one, is 2. So whatever my index is for my radical, I would do that power on the other side. Okay? So if it was cube root, I would do 3. Fourth root, I would do 4. Same thing as the fraction. Okay, so I'm going to do a squared is just a squared. Then 12 minus a. Now you'll see these occasionally on your homework. So whenever I have a squared, anything squared, I want to move everything else to that side of the equation. So this a will come over here, and this 12 will come over here. Okay? So I'm going to end up having a squared minus a becomes plus a. 12 becomes minus 12. And if you recognize this, yes, we're going to factor. I know, the F word. This is like the worst one in math, right? You hear factor and you're like, no. That's okay, we can do it. So, factor first times last, you get negative 12, right? And then I know I'm going to have 2 parentheses. And because my first one is just 1a, I'm going to have 1a in each one. And if I remember right, I might be wrong, but I think the homework, I left them all 1a on purpose just to, I'm not really practicing, I mean, you need to factor, but I'm more focused on the other part. Anyways, so what 2 numbers add to, multiply to negative 12 and add to positive 1? Well, you got 4 and minus 3. So those multiply to negative 12. 4 minus 3 is positive 1. And then from here, I can solve for a, right? So remember, you set each of them equal to 0. And then I can solve. So I would subtract 4, add 3. I know I might be going a little fast, but some of y'all don't even have to show work for this part by this point, which is great. It's okay if you have to. It's always better to show your work. Okay. So notice I have a positive number, I have a negative number. Now I can't automatically assume these are correct because, remember our extraneous solutions? Extraneous just means extra, right? It's kind of built into the word, if it'll move. So I have extra solutions. And then the extraneous, the whole word is just extra solutions that do not work, that are not true. So let me go back. And you actually can go all the way back to this point in time right here, where I have the square root or whatever radical by itself. That's what you want to go back to. So I'm going to rewrite this. So I'm going to have a equals square root of 12 minus a. Okay. You can go back all the way to the top if you want to. You'll just have a little bit more work, but I've already done some of the work to here, so this is where I want to start. Now, I need to plug in my two answers into that equation and make sure that my square root does not equal a negative number. Now remember, if I have square root or fourth root, I cannot equal a negative number. If I have a cube root, totally fine, right? Plus, I want to make sure this works out anyways. So my first number I got was negative 4. So if I put, let me try, I don't know what color I want to use. Negative 4 equals square root of 12 minus negative 4, right? So if I just did the first step here, so if I do 12 minus negative 4, it's actually 16. And if I look at that, a square root cannot equal a negative number. Therefore, A is an extraneous solution and is not true. So let's plug in the next one. Now I have 3 equals square root of 12 minus 3. 3 equals square root of 9. Well, that is true. Square root of 9 is 3. So my answer for this one, my only answer, is A equals 3. So you only have to do that extra part if you have letters, variables, outside the square root. So like this A was not in the square root, this A was not in the square root. And if you look at the homework, there's a few of them I put in there like that just so you get some practice. Most of them, though, will be like these first two where they don't have the possibility of extraneous solutions, so not as much work. But anyways, I would definitely practice this because you have a quiz coming up.